sponsored by Hairy Ass Zero Fat.
Zero fat so I can eat more picnics. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Live, Perform, Compete podcast. You are joined by me, Paddy, and
myself, Ed.
Hey Ed.
Hey Patrick.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a bit tired actually. Yeah, maybe let me start.
Me too.
I've gone to a default good. Actually, it is good. I'm having a good day. It's a lovely day outside. Lots of things to be grateful for, lots of positive things, but body's feeling a little tired at the moment. And so yeah, quite sleepy at the moment. This is the first time I sat down for one of my podcasts rather than standing. Yeah, I think that says something.
Mentally weak.
You know what? No, I'm going to stay seated.
Yeah, I physically can't stay seated, not because through hyperactivity and my back will ache loads with these terrible stools.
IKEA's finest.
IKEA's finest. What have you been doing today?
What have I been doing?
We had PD this morning.
Yeah, so before that, Wednesday mornings always write out the next week for the elite program, and we're starting a new block for the LPC next week, so just some kind of fine tuning on that. We had a PD session with the team, which is basically talking about the next phase for LPC, talking about the whole season for all of our programs, kind of putting some context as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. So CrossFit HQ released the whole calendar last week, so we shared a post with all our subscribers and gyms saying, okay, regardless of which, here's, relative to the program that you're following, here's where we're peaking for and here's what your training looks like right now. So I kind of took the team through that and then took the team through the whole program that I'd written out. And what we basically do is brainstorm it together. So I present what I propose to do, and then essentially as a team we challenge ideas, ask questions, and make sure all of us have a really good understanding as to why the program's been written the way it has, and if it can be fine-tuned and made better. So it's actually a fun session.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, then myself and yourself, we trained together. I think we're both feeling a little tired, so we opted for a bit of a bodybuilding session. I was supposed to be doing some chest to bar testing today, but just wasn't up for it. Had a good sesh, and we went outside. It was a glorious day.
It was very nice.
We sat on Coastal Hill in the new park.
Coastal Hill. Murray Mound, Coastal Hill.
Yeah, and then since then, been working with clients, and now here we are, ready to record a podcast. What about you?
I had some clients this morning, and then we had PD. Just going off that PD thing, I actually enjoyed it when I enjoyed it this morning, but it was also nice when we put together the ideas for the program. I think it was the last block, and maybe it was the block before that.
Yeah.
We kind of sat down and we talked about where do we want to take the program next. What do we want to do? So
I think we didn't do that this time just because we were
rushed,
and we also had Maddie's assessment. So we had one of our clients she'd asked me for an assessment on her shoulder and her hip, and I basically said to her, hey, if you were willing to do this as a part of our team PD session, I'll assess you. It'll be free of charge. We'll do your assessment, but the team will be watching. We'll brainstorm it together. Yeah. And so, because it was a 2-session series, we would have normally sat down and brainstormed it together, but I wanted to get her finished off. So
yeah, it was valuable though. And then we had our training session. Then managed to be outside for about an hour, which was nice in the sun. And then had a couple more clients this afternoon, and now we are recording the pod, and they got another client this evening, and then it's be done.
Then we were both saying how much we enjoy just bodybuilding, which we actually one of our most recent episodes was talking about the validity of bodybuilding across it, but I think especially the validity of bodybuilding type sessions in the deload phase, or when the body's not feeling up for pushing, it's good. You can just jump into movements, to warm up joints, work around sore spots, and it just feels good. Like it felt great after the session.
Getting blood flow all around the body, it feels good. Like having a pump on, like feeling good about yourself.
It's good.
So today, listeners, we're going to be doing a Q&A. So we asked for some questions on our podcast, on our Instagram, sorry, not on our podcast. So we're going to go through, we've got 11 here. We might not get through all of them today. We'll go through
the 11 best ones.
Yeah, we definitely had more.
We had a lot, yeah. I think we should share. So both myself and Paddy said, we'll both put on our individual Instagrams. So we both put it out yesterday. I think Paddy had a total of 5 questions, maybe one which was related to health and fitness.
And then 2.
Those actually a couple good ones, yeah.
Yeah, and then one was snog, marry, avoid Ed and Liam.
Wait, who is it? Snog,
marry, avoid.
Avoid, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a much more PC version than the one I've played many times.
Shag, marry, snog,
kill.
kill. Oh wow.
Yeah, pretty aggressive.
Aggressive. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So let's go through number one. So we'll number these number these questions. So number one's going to be mentally feel like I'm done with everything. Tips on not giving up.
I would assume the question is referring to why he says everything, but I think a lot of people generally feel, especially within the training space, they've kind of lost motivation, don't want to train anymore, and kind of what to do about it. I think the first place I would always go to is go back to your why, and why is basically, why do you do anything? A lot of people, when they actually dig a little deeper to try to understand why they do something, often don't have an answer. Maybe they've been felt pressured by social norms or peers or other people to start training, and they actually haven't tied it to something that's intrinsically related to them. So maybe it's to look better to impress other people, maybe it's to fit in with the social group, maybe it's because their employer gave them a free pass to a gym. But I think having something intrinsically related to you as to why you do it is super, super important. Now, I think that's a first step. If you go through that process and you realize, actually, shit, I haven't really put enough thought into why I actually do this, and I think it's worth investigating and spending some time trying to understand why you do train. And I always go back to.
I mean, you put that out recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
We were talking about it on the podcast as well.
I always think about Viktor Frankl's book Man's Meaning, which the whole premise of the book is, if you have a strong why, you can deal with any how. And so, that's just, it's individual meaning to every single person. So I think that's one. But I think in the second one, beyond that, if you have a good why, but you're just struggling at the moment, maybe, I don't know, things in life aren't going for you, you're down in the dumps, whatever it is, and you're just not feeling like going to the gym, or you're struggling, I think this is where, an important conversation and distinction between discipline and motivation is probably important to talk about. And a lot of people get the two mixed up. And I think there's certainly times, like probably today for myself and yourself, we kind of came into the gym and we're almost probably questioning whether we should even do anything.
And we actually had that yesterday as well.
And yesterday,
Everyone were all kind of sat in the office at 10:30 and we were like,
yeah, everyone was just tired. It's probably the tail end of a really big 9 weeks. Temperatures dropped. I don't know if that's made a difference, but yeah, today I kind of came into work and I was thinking, I might actually just get outside and just get some sun and not actually train at all. And that's generally because my motivation wasn't there, my body wasn't feeling great. I would kind of just rather just recharge my batteries and not do it. But then I think this is where you've got to lean on discipline. And discipline for me, it's a little bit easier here because we've carved out a time as a team where we all train together. And so the habit, it's almost a habit stacking approach, right? The gym closes at 10:15 because the staff train together. So I know at 10:15 the gym's closing, the rest of my team's all getting ready to train. That kind of gave me a bit of a boost to actually get my gym gear and actually get down and start training. And it didn't mean that the session wasn't hard, it wasn't anywhere near as high intensity as normal. It wasn't trying to get fitter today, I wasn't trying to lift more weights than last week, it was just get in and move. And that is just, that discipline has been cultivated over 15-20 years. So it wasn't really a struggle to ask. I don't know, is there anything, I feel like I'm waffling a little bit, have you got anything to add there?
No, so I think you kind of I think you went into it, I said dived in again. I think you went into it pretty well there, quite deep actually in terms of the why. What I would have said more kind of superficial was do something you enjoy doing, do something that's fun. Like for me, before I was doing CrossFit, or when I kind of came out of CrossFit for a bit and went back into kind of just strength and bodybuilding, and then just like monostructural conditioning on its own, I trained like that for about 2 years. And there were plenty of times where sometimes I trained, because my shifts would change, sometimes I trained before work, sometimes I trained after, and a lot of the times when I trained after work I was just absolutely rinsed. Like, can you imagine doing a full work day now and then having to train at 5-6 o'clock? How many times you'd want to bin it off? And for me, like, kind of going back to that bodybuilding thing that we did today, if it was like, for example, I had an 8 RM or a 10 RM back squat to do on a day when I was feeling fatigued, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do that another day. So instead I'd just be like, I'm just going to do pipes, I'm just going to do beach weights today, get a pump on in the mirror, which is actually what we did today. But that was my go-to of what's fun. Alternatively as well, I've actually never struggled to find motivation to go for a run. I can always go for a run. Even if my body's sore, just go for like a zone 2 run, like keep at 5:30 km pace. For me, I could hold that all day. And just put a podcast in, listen to like a classic playlist that I love, and I can just go off running out in nature. This was back in the UK, go off running in the woods, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that takes no motivation or no effort for me. And I know when I come back, I'll be like, that was worth it, I did that. So for me, those are the things that I know I can have little to no motivation and I can still go ahead and do those things. So if you think that there's something that can get you back into that momentum and back into that level of discipline that you're talking about, then do that. If that is just sitting on the rower, if that is doing a max snatch session, you know, whatever it is that will get you into the gym to give you the motivation to kind of create a bit more momentum, I would think about that. And then the other thing I would say is don't be hard on yourself. There are plenty of times when we can't be asked to do something, and it's like that one day or that 1 week that you miss out of the 52 weeks of the year, or however many weeks you're training or whatever, or your training cycle, it's actually really small. It might feel like you've lost so much from not doing that session. Really, in the grand scheme of things, it's so small. And if we're talking about 1-2 sessions within the week, that's fine. If you've had a 6-month layoff and you haven't been bothered to go to the gym, that might be a different story. But a lot of the time, I think people are really harsh on themselves. I didn't do my Monday X session or whatever. And actually, having that one day off will probably that mental clarity that you need, or the decompression like you were potentially going to do today, where you just go for a walk, listen to a podcast, meditate, whatever it is, get outside, do something different than what you would normally do, could more likely than not reset you to go back and do what you were supposed to do the next day or the next week.
No, that's a really good point. And actually thinking back to a couple of years ago, I would have been that person who would have come into the gym, not feel motivated to train. Body was probably not wanting to train, probably because I've overcooked it or not recovered optimally, and I would have just forced myself through a training session. And actually all that ended up doing was pushing my recovery back even further before I was optimal again. And so now, you know, again, going back to the why for me, like the why for me is like, I want to challenge my body, but I just want to move every day. And so movement could look like a walk, movement could look like 100 chest and bar pull-ups at a time, or movement could look like what we did today, which is just getting out to sea, or just doing a bit of a bodybuilding session. And knowing that the fact that I've done something is better than not doing anything, and that's good enough for me.
And for me, that was exactly what happened to me on Sunday. I was feeling, we had celebrated a birthday on Saturday night, Liam's birthday. We went to a brunch, had quite a few beers. Next day, feeling a bit dusty, and my achievement for the day was that I walked outside for an hour in the sunshine, listening to music. That was enough for me. That I was like, I know that mentally I felt good that I had done something, not nothing, and that was enough of a box tick for me. And that could be the same for you. Like, for example, walking home from work instead of getting in the car or taking the tube or whatever it is that you normally do. That could be enough of a spur for you to feel better about yourself, or feel better that you have more of a sense of achievement from the day.
Yeah, nice. I think there's loads of good things we touched on there. I really like what you said about just don't be hard on yourself. And if you're thinking now, you're listening to this thinking, all right, well, I just need to get up and do something. Start small, make it manageable and achievable, and then start to build momentum.
Lovely. Number 2, how is your gym staying competitive with numerous gyms when numerous gyms are opening? I'll say that again. How is your gym staying competitive when numerous gyms are opening around you? I'm assuming within the facility. I think you had quite a few questions on gym competition with other gyms, so this is kind of more an all-encompassing one, answering about 4 or 5 questions you had.
Yeah, you know, it's interestingly, I actually kind of find that a hard one to answer, because I've never ever thought about being competitive with other gyms.
Can I try and answer for you?
Yeah, of course.
So from when we were going through these questions earlier, and we were talking about that, I was thinking about how you would answer that, and I was expecting you to be like, don't think about what the other gyms are doing, focus on how you can provide more value to your clients, how you can provide the best service to the people in the gym, and that in itself will take care of itself for everything else.
I mean, that actually is totally the answer. And I think, you know, going back to the question, like, what do you do to stay competitive? And my answer is like, I've never actually thought about trying to be competitive, but it's more about knowing what you want to do and who you want to be. And, you know, I've got a lot of clarity on what we want to do and who we want to be. And that, to be honest, I don't care if there's 50 other gyms in our area who will want to do the same thing. Or I don't care if we're the only person or the only gym that wants to do that. At the end of the day, we can only control what we can control, and that is, offering the best level of service to the people that come here. Creating a facility that we think meets the standards of what we're offering, looking after the employees of this team, and building a good, solid business. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. And I think if you put all your love and effort into what you can control, often you'll get some pretty good results. And I think that really translates to almost everything in life. And so at no point have I ever honestly looked at what other gyms are doing, looked at what their marketing strategies are, inquired about what their financials look like. In 12 years of running a business, I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we have done, or that I've seen you do since I've been here with other gyms, is encourage community and welcoming them in, and rather than where a lot of people I think this is something that Jason Kleepers talked about with his kind of like NC business idea or concept, and it was like the gyms around you aren't your, maybe it was someone else. The gyms around you aren't your competition. They're with you,
yeah,
and it's the commercial gyms, and it's the people that are sedentary that are the competition, or that you should be going and focusing on, not the CrossFit gyms around you.
I think the way that I've always looked at it is that the more people who are investing in health and fitness, the more we all succeed.
Yeah.
And I think if all gyms, even the Globo gyms, the F45s, the boot camps, the other CrossFit gyms, if we can all provide a better offering, there's plenty of people around here in Hong Kong, the rest of the world, to go around for everyone. You imagine if we can get every single person off their sofas at home and into a gym in some way, shape or form, there's never going to be a shortage of people.
Yeah.
And so actually, you're right, one of our biggest efforts now is to actually collaborate with the other gyms and see together, what can we do to make more noise? And it's not even just the CrossFit gyms that we're trying to work with, it's basically any gym who's like-minded, who actually wants to help people. I think that's a pretty important part, just because for us, something that drives us is impact. That's our mission statement. We want to impact people's lives around the world, and I want to work with other gym owners who also share those same values and that same mission, because I think that's really where the magic happens.
Yeah, I think it's what we've talked about in the last couple of episodes has been about values, particularly one that's coming out. Is it next week? Maybe the week after. Our mental health one we've got in November one, and we were talking about values and win relationships, and it's the same in business as it is in your personal life. With you'd much rather work with a business, and we were talking about with companies that we want to align with, like Bandit Coffee, and
sponsors,
Milton Chief, people like that. But they're small companies that align with us in terms of what they're looking to achieve. Who they are as people, not and how they operate as a business, not how successful they are or their overheads or
how many Instagram followers they have. Yeah,
exactly.
None of those things are really important to us. It's about good connections with good people.
Yeah, and that's the same inside the gym as well. That's the kind of ethos we're trying to create.
Yeah.
Nice. A little bit more specific to CrossFit programming. So how would you program skill acquisition refinement week to week?
Good question. So I think on a basic level, when it comes to skill refinement, the first thing one has to do is understand what is required to get better at the skill. And sometimes it's not always just doing more of the movement. Sometimes there could be movement or mobility limiters. There might be strength limiters. There might just be motor control or just learning the movement limiters. So I think it's really important when it comes to improving a skill, understand that it's not necessarily just doing more of the repetition. It may mean that we have to do broken down variations of the movement. We need to do accessory movements to help us be better at the movements. That's the first piece. The second piece is then, if we're talking about skill refinement, let's say it's in the sport of CrossFit where we've got thousands and thousands of different skills to get better at. Then we always have to adhere to the policy of we need to isolate before we integrate. So isolating before we integrate basically means we generally spend a set amount of time or an extended period of time where we do that movement by itself in a low fatigue based setting. And once we can bring it up to a certain standard or a certain level, then we can start to incorporate it into more of a moderate or higher fatigue based setting. So for an example, let's say someone is learning how to do a kipping toaster bar. We wouldn't do straight away a 10-minute AMRAP of toaster bar wall balls and burpees. or 5 rounds a time of toes to bar and running and skipping, we would just do we would just do toes to bar, rest as needed, toes to bar, ensuring that the quality is really high. And I think it's really important that firstly people understand that concept. Number two, it's also really important to understand that if you're, I'm gonna relate this to the sport of CrossFit just to give it a bit of context, is that at the end of the day, our sport is generally going to test skills in some form of fatigue-based setting where it's combined with other movements. So the whole idea of isolate first before you integrate, you can't just isolate things forever and expect to then be able to do them in an integrated setting. There has to be a point of time where you move away from doing that movement in an isolated setting and you put it into more of an integrated setting. And the way that I would plan that would be looking at the season. So if you're someone who is mapping out your training, and let's say your goal is to be at your physical best by the time of the CrossFit Open, then I would say kind of 2 months before the CrossFit Open, we'll start to probably take that skill and integrate it into more fatigue-based settings. But the rest of the year, you'll really spend isolating the movement. The next thing I would say as well, so I think that's kind of more of a global macro view of how you would organize skill refinement and progression. The next one is, okay, well, how would you progress a skill week on week? A lot of people think that progression, especially in strength and conditioning terms, means that there has to be an increase in either volume or intensity. So if we're talking about, let's say, weight training, an increase in volume means doing more load and more overall weight lifted over the sets. An increase in intensity would mean increasing the load on the bar every single week. When it comes to skill refinement, understand that with each week, if you're actually performing the skill more effectively, that is already progression. So if you do exactly the same number of reps in week 2 as you did in week 1, but you're doing it more efficiently now, that is already an increase in volume. That makes sense?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, so don't be too fast to have to rush, to feel the rush in having to increase volume. Start by trying to refine the movement with good mechanics, technique, and efficiency as much as possible first. That's your first progression. And then once you've done that, then you can start to look to play around with things like volume and intensity.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with everything you said. What I would say though is that you've used a lot of technical jargon that some listeners might not understand. So I think let's break that down to, you talked about keeping toes to bar. Let's break that down to a real world example. So you talked about it in isolation, but not in a fatigue-based setting. So I think what you're trying to say there is that looks like sets of toes to bar that are potentially unbroken or with good quality form.
Not going to failure.
Not even in an EMOM setting.
Yep.
So we're talking about 3, 4, 5 sets of 4, 5, 6, 10. You fill in the number of good quality unbroken repetitions.
Rest and recovery.
Rest till as needed, yeah, and then go again. So that would be
isolated.
Once, yeah, and then maybe even before that, we should be thinking about if you're first understanding a skill, then you're probably going to have to do regressions of the toes to bar, which is exactly what we've been doing with our live athletes. They aren't people that have had a lot of exposure to kipping movements. Some of them have strength limiters, but we're still teaching them a new skill whilst working on their strength limiters to hopefully be able to move them up to be able to complete kipping toes to bar. So we've started with beat swings. We're now integrating some more scap and lat strength to help them pull down on the bar. We're getting them to broken down versions of hollow and arch holds.
Doing hip compression strength, so hip
flexor strength, yeah. And then we're also teaching them the dynamic movement of a beat swing as well as a straight leg raise, which is essentially an increased beat swing. So within those components, that's probably the most broken down part of the kipping toes to bar. Then we hope in the coming weeks and months, those athletes are going to be able to move up towards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reps of a kipping toe to bar with good quality form without getting too fatigued. Then that's what we previously talked about. They rest as needed, go again. So then from there, where would you go from that?
So then I think before you even start to throw in any other movements into it, like for example combining it with rowing or combining it with a assault bike, you can just increase the amount of volume that you're doing or increase the density. So the density would mean basically reducing the rest in between sets to make it more challenging. So you could run that progression for a really long time. And then at some point, maybe if we've set a target.
So that could be like, instead of doing 4 or 5 sets of 5 reps, they might be doing a 10-minute EMOM.
Yeah, every minute on the minute, start a new set. So the rest is controlled. And then you can make that every 50 seconds and you can make it every 45 seconds, or you can increase the reps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at some point when we feel, okay, our athlete has gotten to a point where they can now execute the movement with a decent number of unbroken reps. Let's start to see what happens and integrate that into more of a fatigue-based setting. So the fatigue-based setting, the simplest way would be pairing it with a cyclical movement or monostructural movement like a row or an assault bike or a C2 bike, and then you can start to get really fancy and start to combine it with bodyweight movements.
Non-complementary.
Exactly. So yeah.
So
Thanks for breaking that down.
So just going off a mistake there, not understanding where to take someone from skill acquisition myself, not as a coach, as an athlete. For example, with kipping toes to the bar, I wouldn't have gone through the progressions of beat swings, straight leg raises, and understanding, breaking down the movement of where my weaknesses were. It would have been, I can do 4 or 5 kipping toes to the bar, right, I'm going to do a 10-minute EMOM, 3 to 4 kipping toes to the bar. Lots of those reps would be a little bit shitty, to the point where I'm doing 8, 9, 10 of a 10-minute EMOM, maybe increase the EMOM to 15 minutes, and I'm doing 10 toes to the bar for 15 minutes. I'll be like, I'm sick at toes to the bar now. And then that would be my skill prep, and then just throw it straight into a Metcon, which...
I skipped out all that, just went to Metcon, by the way.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the worst approach. There were definitely better ways to do it, like we've just broken down, but it's not optimal.
Yeah, that's also a rate of progress that you probably wouldn't see in most normal people just getting into a new skill as well. You clearly had some strength and good positional awareness to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we covered that job.
I think we covered it pretty well. And if someone doesn't know what toes to bar is, then sorry, you just listened through 5 minutes of...
So we're CrossFit wankers. Cool. Tips for strength training early in the morning on an empty stomach. So nutrition related question.
Okay, so I think the first question is, for strength training, what is the fuel source that we're most predominantly using when doing heavy strength training? Carbohydrates. But even still, we wouldn't be needing as much carbohydrates for strength training as we would, let's say, conditioning work or endurance style training. So some carbohydrates can be needed. Obviously, there's some context that needs to be applied here. So this doesn't apply for everyone. For example, someone who is perhaps more in an overweight population who's trying to lose body fat and using weight training as a means of doing that, then maybe carbohydrates won't be as important. But generally speaking, as an athlete, you're going to probably want to have maybe even small amounts of protein and some carbohydrates for strength training. So if you're planning on the only time you can train is early morning, then really you've got 2 options here. Option number 1, load up your dinner a bit more. So your last meal of the day before, make sure you've got adequate amounts of carbohydrates, so you've got those glycogen stores in our system, and perhaps even think about maybe eating a little bit more in terms of protein. Don't go crazy there. Or option 2 is that we look to things like liquid nutrition, so liquid carbohydrates, pre-digested protein in the form of a protein shake early in the morning before you start training, something that's easy to digest. It's not going to leave you feeling full when you get into a session, but you've got some readily accessible glycogen, you've got some readily accessible amino acids to actually start assimilating during your session. Anything to add?
What I would say is that is give it a try of not being on an empty stomach. If you you're a lot of the time people say, I eat carbs, I'm so sleepy, or I can't train on an empty stomach, or I can't go to bed, with this, or whatever it is. I have to do this, I have to do that. How long have you tried?
Your body will adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty crazy machine.
And I think that's where people are so not reluctant to change, but they like to label themselves as one specific thing and be like, I know my body well, this is what it needs. I know my body better than you do, which is true, but your body is also so adaptive to whatever it is, like you said, and it's all about rhythms with sleep, with nutrition, with everything, with hormones. Your body it likes to stick to a routine, it likes to get to know what it is, and that's why it feels more comfortable doing that, because you've done that for an extended period of time, like training on an empty stomach. And I thought that was me as well. There were lots of times when I was like, I used to do all my endurance, like rowing intervals and stuff in an AM session, and I wouldn't eat breakfast before. And then I started working with a nutritionist that was talking about making sure that you don't have too much brain fog when you're doing, like 1-2 hours on the bike or whatever in the morning. And then started adding in a really carb heavy breakfast in the morning, and I felt so different. But it was because it wasn't that it was like my mate telling me I'll give it a try, and me going, no, I know my body. It was the nutritionist that I was paying the money towards, so I was automatically bought into what they were telling me to do. So I think a lot of that is perspective. It's not so much that you think that's the only way that your body can work. I think you need to just give it a try with some other alternatives. Try having a liquid breakfast, like you said, have an easily digestible protein and a fast carb source. See how you feel on that for not just a couple of sessions, for a couple of weeks. And then try having some oats in the morning, or try having some eggs in the morning, try having some bread in the morning. See how all of these things feel for an extended period of time. And then once you've really wholeheartedly bought into something and tried it, then you can be like, that hasn't worked for me. But it's about understanding that awareness of how your body feels. And that's what I'd say.
Nice, agreed.
Question number 5. That was question number 4, if I didn't say that. Question number 5, how to plan your training after coming back from forced rest due to illness.
Okay, I think obviously it depends what the illness was.
Or injury.
Yeah. I think we'll go with illness here. So obviously something like if you had something like gastro, where digestive system just couldn't hold any food down, and you've gone through an extended period of not really assimilating any food for a while, that's going to be a very different position to someone who had, let's just say, a head cold, okay, or COVID, and depends on what degree of COVID I guess they had. So why don't we just very quickly outline the two. I think if you're someone who's come back from, let's say, some gastro or something digestive related, where maybe food intake has been limited or has been considerably less than what you would normally eat, then I think my very first priority would be actually get back to proper fueling again and get back to a diet that looks more or less similar to what you were doing before, and give that a couple of days before you think about getting back to hard training. In the meantime, whilst you're refueling and restocking, basically essentially refilling your stores that have been depleted, I would just go for really easy training. It could be like light bodybuilding, it can be very gentle aerobic work, but nothing strenuous. You're not striving for adaptation with your training at all. If you're someone who's coming back from, let's say, a cold, and maybe you've just got some respiratory symptoms still kind of hanging around, maybe a runny nose, maybe kind of like a tickly throat or a cough, then I'd generally be staying away from hard aerobic training, anything that's going to tax the respiratory system, and I'd focus a little bit more on kind of CNS or kind of bodybuilding, challenging the muscles versus the actual aerobic system. So I'd honour that bias, either low intensity aerobic training and more just weight-based training if that's that person. What other illnesses? I guess COVID falls into that category as well. But I think generally speaking is understanding that when your body is still trying to fight the end of illness, there's a lot of our body's resources that are going towards battling that illness. And understand that hard training is going to also require those same resources to recover from. So if your body's feeling under recovered or it's trying to heal from something, and then you go and do a really hard training session, you're essentially taking the resources that the body wants to allocate towards getting over the illness, and you're putting them towards trying to repair your tissues and nervous system from hard training, in which case you're actually not going to benefit neither. You're not going to get the full benefits of recovering from training, and you're not going to have the full benefits of actually getting over your cold. And so basically that's where you see people who rush back to training too quickly neither get better with their training nor do they get over their sickness.
Yeah, and it's the same with stress. When people come into the gym with having had a stressful day emotionally, physically, whatever it is, and they look to feel better by then smashing themselves into the ground with a heavy training session, or they've had a heavy weekend on the beers and they're like, well, Monday I need to clear, flush it all out of my system and put myself in the bin. And a lot of the time you're adding to the stress exactly the same as your body isn't able to recover from whatever you've given it, whatever stress it has. It doesn't perceive a stress as a negative or a positive, it's just more stress.
Yeah, your body's only got so many credits it can use to get us through each day, and if your body's having to put those credits towards dealing with stress or dealing with an illness, understand you just got less credits to use for your hard training session. And generally speaking, burnout, injury and illness generally stems from when we've overspent our credits, where we don't have enough credits left, and then we do a really hard training session, or we go and do something really stressful at work, or shit happens in life and we start overspending our credits and we can't recover from it anymore.
Yeah, nice. Number 6, how do you manage the Live Perform Compete program in your group classes?
Nice. Okay, so very quickly, for those who don't know what the Live Perform Compete program is, it's 3 different tracks of programming that we offer. We offer it worldwide, but also we run it in our affiliate gyms. So here at Coastal, we're essentially one of our affiliate gyms. So in terms of the actual class, in terms of how it runs, essentially the whole class trains together. So we may have, let's say, 5 people in the Live program, 5 people in the Perform program, 5 people in the Compete program, all in the same class together. The way that we design the workouts is that the program flows together. So the A work is similar across the 3 groups. There may be some slight changes in terms of movement selection. For example, the Live group may be doing a push press, Perform and Compete may be doing push jerks, and there may be some differences in terms of intensity. For example, Live are doing 3 sets of 8 higher volume work with pauses and tempo, and Perform and Compete are doing sets of 5 touch and go repetitions and heavier loads. But essentially, as coaches, it allows us to coach all 3 groups effectively, and we move on to the next segment of the workout together. So that's essentially how it works. You know, we pair people up, the whole class is training together. It's really good vibe, doesn't matter your ability level, we're still working out, we're still training, just our goals slightly differ. And then in terms of how we get people to adhere to those groups, I think that's a question I get asked a lot. You know, how do you ensure you get the right people in the Live program, the right people in the Perform program? So when people come to one of our affiliates, they have to go through an assessment process, and we have really clear prerequisites that people have to meet before joining the Live, Perform or Compete program. And it's pretty much a zero tolerance policy in that we don't allow people who, let's say, meet all the prerequisites but are missing 2 to actually join the program. The reason we have those prerequisites is, number one, it ensures that the program that we design is actually appropriate for them, and they're actually going to get better for the program. We don't want to have them to have to scale movements or adjust workouts constantly because they can't perform the movements as prescribed. Number 2, it's safety. You know, doing movements in rep ranges and loads and intensities that are appropriate to them and their ability level. And 3, it ensures that it allows us as coaches to be able to actually effectively coach the class. When you have people who are in the wrong program, can't execute movements, we end up hand-holding those athletes, and that athlete gets basically all the attention in the class, and basically no one else gets coached. So to ensure the quality of how we actually deliver our service and deliver high-level coaching, it's really important we basically run those assessments when people do join our gym and adhere to the standards. And then, you know, it's just about constant education on why we have the 3 programs, what the goals of 3 programs are, and what the prerequisites for each of those programs are. You know, we don't assume that, okay, if someone's heard it once, they know why we have these different groups and these prerequisites. Basically, I would say every couple of weeks we're talking in some way, shape or form, either as coaches on the floor or on our social media pages, or when we communicate to our clients and our online subscribers through the Water Cooler, which is our online chat platform. We're always talking about these things, so people know exactly why they're in a group and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
We do actually have another program on top of that as well.
2 more programs actually.
Well, we have our Elite.
We have the Elite program, yes, which is that. The only thing about Elite is we don't run that in our classes.
No.
But the Elite program is for folks who are targeting the semi-finals and CrossFit Games. So they are the high-level athletes, the Ant Haynes and Tamron Robinsons of the world. And we also actually have the Build program, of course, which is for folks who just want to look good, move well, and strive for structural balance and enjoy kind of a mix of weight training and some basic energy system training.
Yeah.
And of course, we have the Gymless program, Paddy,
We do.
which is our free program. If anyone wants just some structure, all you need is a weighted backpack. But if you have things like dumbbells and stuff at home, then you can use those as well.
Yes. That's a lot of programs.
That is a lot of programs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
5, 6. 6 programs.
And then we have additional accessory programs as well on top.
Yeah, we do.
Great. I just going with that. I remember when I was in quarantine, before I started coaching here, I was really daunted by the idea of having to almost run 3 separate classes. That's how I kind of perceived it. I think this person's kind of come in the same way. But the moment I came into the environment and you saw how the classes run, you're like, oh, no, you know, it does work.
I think a lot of people walk in and not even know that there's 3 different programs running.
Yeah, I think as well with the fundamentals and us making sure that we're communicating that to new members as well. I think people kind of think, oh, what group am I going to be put in? Almost like, you know, am I going to be set 1, set 2, set 3? when actually, like, no one knows whether who's in live, perform, compete. No one cares.
Yeah.
It's just you're all together. Like, you know, we've got live athletes sharing bars with perform athletes and vice versa. You know, it doesn't. No one cares about that. It's just, oh, you're doing sets of 8 today. You're doing sets of 6.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to understand that it's not beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and we try to make people understand that right from the start. The goals of the 3 programs are very different. Perform and compete, and they have an invested interest in being good at the sport of CrossFit. Our live folks enjoy mixed modal fitness. They want to get strong, build muscle, and be aerobically fit, but there's no intention to compete in the sport. So it's really not about, you know, how good are you or how bad are you. It's what are your goals, and here are the prerequisites relative to your goals.
Yeah, perfect. Question, I almost said episode. Question number 7, is it possible to lose weight for a competition without compromising performance?
Yeah, I mean, we see this in high-level sports all the time, especially sports that have, you know, weight limits or weight boundaries. I think if you're thinking about the sport of CrossFit, I think it's definitely possible, but just taking a slow, gradual approach is super important. I think if I think about CrossFit, most people will feel the difference in their body weight in 2 areas. Number 1 is when they're doing weightlifting, so we're having to move heavy external load. And number 2 is when they're doing gymnastics, which is, you know, relative strength. They're having to move their own body weight. And let's talk about gymnastics. If you gain weight, if you're someone who's trying to gain weight, gaining weight too fast is probably going to make your gymnastics not feel very good. It's going to make your weightlifting probably feel quite good.
Amazing.
Yeah, and for people who lose weight really fast, gymnastics feels really good, but weightlifting feels terrible. But, you know, I think
in both those calls.
yeah, me too. And I think it's important to say that, you know, there is definitely no right or wrong. There is no like ideal weight. Everyone has kind of probably their most ideal weight relative to their frame, but also relative to their sport. And so take a long, gradual approach, you know, really slow micro changes, which is really the way that weight loss should be done anyway. If you haven't listened to our Nutrition Pyramids series, where we do 5 episodes talking about this, make sure you do and understand it. But yeah, slow, gradual weight loss should mean that you can still peak performance, being slightly lighter than you were previously.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we were talking about this earlier, but Tour de France athletes do pretty much every single one of these athletes does that before leading up to the Tour de France, and they are putting themselves in the absolute bin in training to get, you know, as probably arguably one of the most grueling sporting events. They are the fittest people in the world. Some people, everyone's like, oh no, CrossFitters are, but we've seen a Tour de France that go up a hill, like,
there are some metrics that are pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And they are intentionally reducing their weight very slowly. You know, we're talking 3, 4, 5 months sometimes up to an event, so that they have the highest power to weight ratio, basically.
And that can only be just a few kilograms over those months.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
How fine those weight margins are. It's crazy. So yeah, 100% it's possible. But the moment that you go too far one way and you start reducing your calories too much to the point where it starts to detriment performance, that's when you know that you need to make a change, whether that's a smaller reduction, whether that's going back up to maintenance, whether that's having a diet break, whatever it is. Although you need to just keep tabs on understanding, like we talked about this, understanding how much you're eating and how much you're burning is the number one thing. Understanding where your energy balance is, rather than you just being like, oh, I'm going to eat less chocolate bars in the afternoon. You know, that it might not be as simple as that, and you want to really understand what you're putting into your body and how much you're burning, and then figuring out from there, where do I want to end up? You kind of reverse engineer your way back, which is exactly how they do it for Tour de France. They'll be like, right, you need to be 63 kilos by race week. How are we going to do that? Okay, that means 0.2 kilograms of body weight per week. That equates to this many calories. That's how many we're going to take off in a day.
Yeah, nice. Love that.
Well, it's possible to lose. We've done that. Number 8. Being super stressed and busy and not prioritizing health at the moment. What's the minimum amount of exercise I should do to maintain muscle mass?
Okay, so there's a lot of things we have to take into account here. I think number 1 is how much muscle mass does this person already have on their body. I think if someone has greater levels of muscle mass, they versus someone who has very little muscle mass will dictate how much training they actually have to do. I think we have to also factor in training age. If someone is brand new to weight training, haven't been doing it very long, versus someone who's been weight training for 10 years, that's going to have very different effects. Someone who's been weight training for a much longer time and probably be able to maintain muscle mass through longer periods of time versus someone who's just started their journey. We have to take into account what their previous training has actually looked like leading into the stressful phase. If you've gone through, let's say, 6 months of training 5 days a week, then moving through a stressful period of time where you drop to 2 to 3 times a week may be absolutely fine. If you're doing 2 sessions a week in the last 6 months and you drop to 1 session a week or 1 session every 2 weeks, well, maybe that's actually not enough to actually maintain. But in terms of so I think context is really specific, really important here. But for someone who is generally going through a stressful period and they're looking to still maintain the amount of whatever, preserve the training that they've done previously, whether it's the aerobic system or muscle mass, a few things to remember is that we want frequency as much as possible. So if we only have 2 opportunities to train in a week, then make sure you're trying to touch on every muscle group within those 2 sessions. So doing something like a bro split where you're doing back and chest on day 1 and legs on day 2 means you're having a full week between sessions. It's just not enough frequency really to maintain muscle mass. So I would really opt for full body resistance training here, where you're basically going head to toe, hitting every muscle group 2 to 3 sets. Is really important. Number 2, understand that, again, we talked about credits available. If you're super stressed at the moment, understand that you don't have as many credits to give to your training, which means that now is not the time to push for really hard training or to strive for adaptation. So what I mean by that is when we do a hard training session, let's say with our weight training, we're pushing our sets to failure. We're doing that because we're trying to entice new muscle growth. In a stressful period of life, that shouldn't really be your goal. Your goal should just be moving, doing something stimulating, but not to the point where you're actually trying to make it better. So what that looks like is making sure you're leaving 2, 3, 4, 5 repetitions in a tank on every single set. Obviously, a really important part of maintenance of muscle mass is nutrition and lifestyle. That's probably the 2 most important things before we even talk about training. So, if you know that work life is a little bit crazy, or life is just a little bit crazy in general, less time to go to the gym, you've still got to really prioritize sleep as much as you can. Remember, undersleeping means under-recovering. If you're under-recovering, then muscle mass is going to drop off your body because your body's going to think it's expensive to keep muscle on your body. So your body's actually going to try and get rid of muscle as fast as it can. And making sure you're just getting adequate calories. If you start drastically cutting calories when your training frequency or intensity is decreased, your body will lose muscle again. I think it's important to understand that muscle is expensive for your body to keep. It would much rather not have it there because it needs a lot of calories just to maintain. So if you stop looking after the basics, calories in versus calories out, and lifestyle measures like stress and sleep, then those are probably the 2 most important things to address.
Yeah, 2 things I was going to say. One would have been nutrition, and the other one is are you tracking? Because a lot of the time, people, not in terms of nutrition, in terms of weight and measuring, like circumferences of muscle bellies.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, I know I do this. If I don't train for 2 days, I'll look in the mirror and be like, oh God, I'm so skinny. When actually you've lost no muscle mass whatsoever. Like that might just be a little bit of water or something, but you want to find out, just track your weight, and if you're really concerned about losing muscle mass, then take measurements of thighs and biceps, things like that. And if you see the numbers going down, then obviously either you're not eating enough, like you said, you're overstressed, or the amount of training that you're doing isn't enough to maintain that muscle mass. So that is probably your answer, that the training that you're doing probably isn't enough.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely think back to the last probably couple of years, in times where, let's say, we had to close the gym because of COVID, and work-life stress was much higher than normal, and my body showed that because my joints were pretty inflamed, didn't have energy during the day. So during that period of time, it was just, okay, just get in and move, do something, make sure I'm getting at least 3 sessions in a week where I'm doing some form of resistance training, but I'm not necessarily trying to get fitter, stronger, or anything here. I'm just trying to do something. And I know the fact that I just did that through those months of hard times, when everything else aligned itself again and I felt healthy, I was able to really express really good levels of strength and build muscle again quite quickly because I know I'd done it. But in that period of time, I wasn't bothered about tracking how much I was doing. It was just about doing the work, like we talked about one of the other questions.
We're going to go with one more question. Would you like, we've got 3 options here. Would you like to talk about joint pain? Would you like to talk about what your normal day looks like at Coastal? Or would you like to talk about important things transitioning into CrossFit from a different sport?
Normal day at Coastal?
Let's do that.
Let's do that, just something a bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Normal day at Coastal, I think, so me personally...
There's never a normal day.
Yeah, well, no, me personally, I'm much more of a, I'm quite a regiment, I have quite regimented hours here, where I, generally speaking, I'll kind of get in around 8 a.m. and I pretty much leave around 5:30. That's pretty, and I'm more or less here all day. I'll go out for my 20 minutes a day post training, but that's it. Whereas I know you're quite similar. You're actually probably working. You're in the gym probably longer hours at the moment.
But still similar.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're both kind of like, we get in, stay here all day, and then we leave.
Yeah.
But when I look at a lot of the rest of the team, I know Ant's very similar as well. But we have a lot of other staff members who kind of come in for their morning clients. They'll train, they'll leave, they'll go meet friends for lunch, they'll go home, they'll get outside for a couple of hours, they'll come back in and do the same, or just leave the gym early. So we have a real mix, I think, within our team. And I think we talked about this in one of our previous episodes. Previous in the past, as a boss, I wanted everyone to be in here as much as I was, and if people weren't, I would probably judge them. Yeah, exactly. So, you need to work harder, you need to commit more. But now, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in balance. I want people to be happy first and foremost, because I know a happy employee is going to give more to a company and be around for longer, and that's really, really important. Yeah. As well as contribute to the culture, that is also extremely important. And as long as people are getting their work done and the quality is of the quality that we all expect here, then that's the most important thing. So absolutely zero judgment. And this is something that's probably only become embedded in our culture in the last few years, and I still find, sometimes our team makes jokes about people like leaving the gym early. But before,
it's our half day, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it is a laugh, but at the same time, it's important that people don't actually think we're being serious when we do that, because I've been in a culture where that was actually a culture where people were shamed for leaving, and when people were shamed for leaving, it makes it an uncomfortable environment to be in. You lose trust in people start having to lie and make up excuses as to why they're going. You just don't want that. I'd rather full transparency and honesty. So, the whole shaming culture is something that's definitely starting to leave now. Every now and then it pops up as a bit of a joke, but generally I'm really happy that people are supportive with each other and taking days off, taking time out of the gym, doing things that are important to them, because at the same time we all know that we're all working hard as well, and that's important.
Yeah, exactly. My day, is very similar to yours. I get here a little bit earlier because a lot of the clients I work with want to train 7:15, 8:15 in the morning, so that's our slot time. So I usually get here for 7, and then I usually leave about 6 most days.
Yeah, I used to also come into the gym and do my admin work there, but I actually got a great home office setup, so I like to do my first couple of hours, or kind of hour and a half, actually working from my home computer, because it's just undisturbed and get really deep work done, and then I come in and the day starts.
Yeah, I think one thing just going off that is that people might hear that and be like, 8 to 5 in the same place every single day, or 7 to 6. That's crazy. But we're not working flat out all the time, as is anyone. There's no one that's in an office environment that's working 8 to 5 or whatever, that's working flat out. You're kidding yourself if you are.
Yeah, there's a 1 hour 45 gym training break that we all take.
Plus the time we take outside.
Then we have lunch. We eat lunch. Generally, most of us, pretty much all of us, eat lunch in the office. But my goal this month is to not be in front of a screen when I eat. So basically, it turns into a social engagement, which I'm actually really liking. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a combination of work and play.
Yeah, for sure. And we have time off in the afternoons that we're this doesn't really feel like work, to be honest. We're just having a chat.
Yeah.
But this is an hour and a half that we've put aside for podcasting. Same thing when we're creating content. It's not like all of your energy is going straight. It's not like it's sapping you. Not that an hour of coaching saps you, but it's a very different kind of energy stimulus compared to.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that we all have quite various schedules. We've got different things within our day. Previously my day was just coaching all day, and I love coaching. But now I get to I look at today. I spent 2 hours sat in front of a computer programming. I spent an hour mixing up with the team, brainstorming. about, during a PD session, then we've trained, then we've done 2 hours of clients, now we're here having a conversation, recording an episode. Like, it's just a real nice mix of stuff in the day, which is exciting.
Yeah, exactly. No one day is the same.
No.
That will do for us for now. Thanks for coming, Ed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank me for coming as well. Nice.
Thank you to everyone who also sent in their questions. It's really always love it when people write in questions and are inquisitive. I will be answering the rest of the questions that people sent me on Instagram. Yeah. Set aside some time, folks, to listen to Paddy's answers as well. Paddy, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
It is time to go.
Yeah.
Nice mid. Nice mid.
It was good.
That was good. Is that 1 hour? Just over?
Just under. I think it's about 4 or 5 minutes under.
Nice. Let me pipe away, pal, because I didn't do it last time.
Let me fucking do the intro. Welcome to this week's episode of the Live Perform Compete podcast. Ed and I did a listener Q&A. We asked some questions on our social media, and we got asked some questions on our social media pages. We touched on mental health. We touched about gym in. Oh fuck! I should have planned that before reading out the questions fully.
I would say just have a look at the episode description where we listed the questions out there.
Yeah. Welcome to this week's episode of the Live Perform Compete podcast. Ed and I did a listener Q&A. We asked our listeners to give some questions on social media. We talked about nutrition, programming, health and fitness, all related. Have a look on the information at the bottom of the page. Oh fuck. So tired. Oh fuck.
Come on, Paddy, you got it.
I've got it.
Third time lucky.
Third time lucky. Just keep it short and sweet, dude. Oosh! Welcome to this week's episode of the Live Perform Compete podcast. Ed and I did a listener Q&A. We asked our listeners to give us some questions on our social media pages, and we answered about 9 of those, talking all things health and fitness. If you'd like to have a look at the specific questions, they are in the link at the bottom of the podcast. Hope you enjoy. Just about.
They're not in the link, they're in the description. Link.
We've got it. We've got it all day. Don't you worry about it. Welcome to this week's episode of the Live Perform Compete podcast. Ed and I did a listener Q&A. Why are you filming me? Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. Paddy's fucking panicking. He's in and out.
Wait. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Live Perform Compete podcast. Ed and I did a listener Q&A. We asked our listeners to give fucking cunt.
Fucking get me in it. Sub in.
3, 2, 1, go.
Team, welcome back to the Live Perform Compete podcast. Today we are doing a Q&A. Myself and Paddy reached out to our followers on Instagram for some questions. We've got some crackers in. Some questions related to strength and conditioning.